Sofia Wolfson. Welcome back to the Fretboard Journal podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This is going to come out at the end of 2025, and I guess this is sort of the two editors of the magazine coming together and two podcast hosts to chat about the year in review.
We've had a very big year, I would say.
Yeah, it's been a big year. Where do we begin?
Where do you want to start?
Well, first and foremost, we put out this beautiful paper-based print magazine, and our fourth issue of the year is going to be probably hitting mailboxes right around the time people are listening to this, so we won't spill the beans on issue 58, but what were some of the stories that stood out to you from this year, or what were some of the fun things you found in the pages that maybe you weren't expecting?
Yeah. Well, I feel very lucky that I got to do some cool artist profiles this year. The start of my year had the Adrian Lenker profile, and later I got to interview Andy Schaaf, and we won't disclose what's coming out in 59. So 58.
Yep. Well, we're working on 59 too, so it's all blends together.
Sorry. Okay. So I won't reveal anything there. But aside from working on my own stuff, the year started with this Jim D'Addario cover story, which you wrote. I had a lot of fun reading this and helping edit this. I mean, even just your intro cracked me up. I probably should have disqualified myself from this interview, you write. After all, I loathe changing strings. Case in point, there's a 30s Gibson L00 here that Bill Frisell once played. I know I haven't changed its strings since that moment. I just checked my phone videos. That moment was in 2016. And then you say, I could fill a whole 50-minute therapy session with excuses for my string procrastination, laziness, worries that I'll, quote, jinx it, and of course, the irrational fear that I'll somehow possibly poke my eye out. Sadly, Jim D'Addario can't help me with any of that. I feel like that's such a good kind of summary of the feel of the magazine, which is like the piece goes on to be a very thorough retelling of the history of the D'Addario String Company, but like there's still some life, behind these stories.
We got to have fun.
I think we have fun.
I forgot all about that intro, and it's not me bullshitting because Hayden Pedigo was just here and he played his electric. That video is out on our YouTube channel, but he also wanted to borrow an acoustic, and he's like, do you have that tuxedo Waterloo that Bill Frisell played once? And I was like, not only do I have it, I think the strings are probably the same Bill played.
That's really funny.
And he played it, and then he did break the high E string. So I do now have to change it. Yeah. It happened after the song while he was trying to put it back into regular tuning. And so I do have that video to share.
Well, maybe it's for the better. It sounds like you needed to change them.
I know. I'm the worst. Anyways, thank you for pointing out that story.
That story made me really happy. I also really I feel like a really good example of how kind of circular the Fretboard Journal community is in terms of musicians writing stories, musicians like me being in the more like technical side of the magazine, and how it's like such a labor of love that everyone participates in various roles. There was a really beautiful profile on our very own Cameron Knoller, who people have definitely heard both on the podcast, and also he's written a number of amazing stories for us over the years. But he takes the seat in front of the camera in issue 56, which came out in the summer, I think.
Yeah.
This if you have this issue or you need to get your hands on this issue, definitely check out this Cameron piece. His childhood and upbringing as a guitar player is pretty fascinating. And also, if you're interested in musicians who also are interested in a more like historical academic lean, Cameron has a lot of incredible knowledge and insight, and it's really cool. I mean, he's still under 30, and he's published several very academic yet accessible books on both playing and the history of the instrument. So it kind of feels like shepherding in like this new wave of like cool professor in a sense.
Totally. Yeah, he is I mean, he's brilliant and an incredible writer, and I think that if I were his age in 2025, I'd probably be chasing lots of similar projects, though probably not doing as well a job as he does. I know he has a zine coming out, I think in 2026, because he invited me to contribute to it, and I probably late on that deadline as I am with many other deadlines. But
no, we're good. Trust me. I also need to do that.
Rural guitar. I mean, basically, if anyone out there is interested, just follow Cameron Noller on Instagram, because he posts this stuff and sometimes it sells out rather quickly. But that's the easiest way to figure out what he's up to.
Yeah, we are very grateful for Cameron. And then, if I'm just kind of doing one per the 3 issues that are already out this year, remember a 4th issue is hitting mailboxes as we speak. 57 had my favorite cover story of the year, which is Joni Mitchell's Greenpeace guitar. Yeah. And it's a really great article because it is very much like an eyewitness account of experiencing this guitar at the New Orleans Heritage Jazz Festival. And it does, again, like what I said with the D'Addario one, like it does a really good job of weaving together personal narrative and the actual technical history of this guitar. And as a huge Joni head, this was a story I actually was not even aware of. That I knew that she had slowed down touring and performing during this time because several reasons, but one being this frustration over having so many different songs and so many different tunings. So reading about kind of the technical way that Roland decided to go around her tuning problem is really interesting. And there's also these really gorgeous photos by Eleanor Jane of the guitar itself, which it's definitely a story to check out.
Clay Froman wrote that, one of my favorite longtime writers for the magazine. And as with so many things in the greater LA rock and roll orbit, Fred Wilecki from Westwood Music was sort of the mastermind behind getting Joni Mitchell hooked up with the Roland guitar that's on there. Or not, he had the guitar made, but the Roland synth system.
Right.
And Fred is just one of these, like, he's one of my favorite people. He's like one of these great connectors, and he's done it for me with subjects. He's done it with when he was selling guitars to people. Something happening in 2026 that nobody will know about is we have a piece on a D'Angelico guitar that our old archtop that Leo Kottke actually owned for a brief period of time. And I messaged Leo Kottke and said, because we had this great profile on this guitar, I'm like, how did you even connect with this? You're kind of known for your archtop playing. And of course it was Fred from Westwood Music who sold him that guitar. It's now moved over to Europe, but Fred's one of my favorite people. He's been on the podcast before. Clay wrote about him in the magazine. And there's actually a really beautiful profile of him in The Atlantic, which his daughter wrote. His daughter is a contributing writer for The Atlantic. And I started getting ads for a profile on Fred from Westwood Music. And I'm like, what? And I, of course, had to download The Atlantic or subscribe to their digital edition just to read it. But it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you caught a couple of my favorite stories. I mean, what issue was it? I'm looking at the issue. In, I think, 56, Jeff Silverman did his piece on being an apprentice for Irvin Samaji.
That one was really special.
And Irvin is one of these, as you pointed out, like the guitar world can be very, very serious, and we try to have fun with it and try to actually show this like incredible array of characters that occupy this guitar space. Irvin is one of those sort of legendary but very quirky figures who has this old world apprenticeship program. And I think it's almost like not veiled in secrecy. All of his apprentices are very proud that they made it through the program, and it definitely adds to their stature and probably the price they can command on their guitars. But for Jeff to kind of like be in the trenches, sleeping on the couch, like totally sweeping the floor mode until he becomes, you know, the next great luthier, and write about it candidly was super fun. So I'm extremely happy with that story. And I think that same issue has the story about the Congo, the guitars of the Congo by Nathaniel Braddock. Nathaniel, again, like Cameron, one of these like historian guitar nuts who's just like kind of academic, but also having fun with it. Wrote this great story and photo essay on the luthiers who've out of as primitive as materials as possible and upcycling and recycling and everything are making guitars for musicians in the Congo. And it's just sort of this beautiful story. And actually at our Fretboard Summit this very summer, we had Andy Powers play a couple of those, you know, by our Western standards, crude, but incredibly cool instruments. And so, yeah, just full circle fun stuff. I was going to mention the story on Joni's guitar too is just really amazing. So glad we could do it. Trevor Barnes, our old copy editor, also did an incredible piece on this obscure bit of mandolin music that he decided to try to play. And it was this beautiful story on the composer and mandolin player, Seth Weeks, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that story is such a good example of what I just don't see anywhere else. Like I don't really know where that piece would go besides something like the Fretboard Journal.
Well, yeah. And I'm so glad that, you know, obviously we talk to Trevor all the time. We still use him, hire him whenever we can. He's got actually a piece in the 58th issue as well. But, you know, that sense of discovery, that sense of fun, and, you know, it's not just... I think, even, you know, the Fretboard Journal is 20 years old this year. I don't feel like I should have to explain its concept, but I will anyways, just because some people think of, you know, tried and true guitar magazines and sort of like, oh, well, you guys must be doing that same thing. And we do some of that, but we're also, you know, with all the pages that aren't filled with gear reviews you don't want to read about or tab for songs, we fill them with these cool stories about, you know, they're basically love letters to fretted instruments, and they're super fun rabbit holes that people go down. And we don't want this to ever feel like a boring magazine. So for anyone out there thinking about pitching us on a great story for 2026, just, you know, broaden your horizons. It can be about all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be about, well, I just bought this new guitar and I want to profile the luthier.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for in the one that's about to come out, if you care to reveal anything?
I mean, I'll reveal a couple things. The story that Trevor did is with Chris Thiele on his insane Bach project, which, you know, is mind-boggling. And I am not enough of a mandolin player to wrap my head around it, aside from the fact that it's like, wow, this is really great music. But I think what was cool was Trevor and Chris connected on a level that I'm guessing doesn't happen all that often, because Trevor is a total mandolin head, and talked about some of the nuance that went into particular tracks on the Bach album, the second Bach album. And so I loved that. And then I got to interview a guitarist who I have listened to so many times. Again, a kind of an unlikely Fretboard Journal story, but I interviewed Mac DeMarco, and was very pleasantly surprised. You know, I think sometimes, especially in the world of indie rock, people have they try to keep an aura around them and not be open or transparent. And Mac DeMarco was just like a super fun guy. Like, I could have talked to him about Toyota Land Cruisers and soldering and home improvement for hours beyond the conversation we had around his last album or new guitar album. And again, one of these like kind of mythical figures who's like incredibly prolific, has a very distinct sound, and it was just super fun to hear the story behind that and how it came to be.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you?
Well, yeah, I have this profile and interview. It's an interview with Meg Duffy, who's Hand Habits. And Meg is someone I've known for a long time. So I feel like it was a really special deep dive interview. And I also got to learn a lot of stuff that I did not know prior.
Do you get extra intimidated when you're writing a story about someone you know you're going to run into in probably a month or two? Because I do.
Oh, that's interesting. Honestly, I get more intimidated by people I don't know and I'm not as familiar with, because I don't want to get anything wrong. I'm not gonna reveal anything, but I'm currently in the trenches of a really fascinating story for a 2026 issue that finds a connection between early Fender days and a very, very famous American painter. And that to me is more intimidating because I feel like a little bit out of my wheelhouse, even though these are both obvious interests to me.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess it's maybe the opposite of you, is when I get to profile or when I get to do a podcast episode with a friend of mine, it feels a bit more comforting. And I also feel like more of an expert. Like I'm kind of approaching it from this different position.
That makes sense. In 2025, we also put out, I have a whole stack of them way over there, but we put out a hardcover book.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
What are we going to do next?
Oh, I don't know. If we did a hardcover, what comes after?
I think we do the Taschen model. They just get bigger
and
bigger.
They just get bigger
and more expensive.
I will say the hardcover book is a really good gift.
The Luthier's Toolbox is the book we're talking about.
Yes. And I know this is you probably listen to this after the holidays, but I'm going to say that it's a good birthday gift for that guitar lover in your life. It's really great. It's basically like 100 luthiers talking about what their favorite little tool is that they use. Yeah.
Yeah. This started out as, a pitch from frequent contributor Jamie Therington down in Australia, whose last name I probably just botched. Sorry, Jamie. And he wanted to interview a handful of luthiers about their favorite tool. And then, of course, as these things tend to do, it sort of spiraled into this, my 5 submissions has turned into 20, which has turned into nearly 100. And it is just, it became much bigger than a magazine article, and we decided to just go all out and do a hardcover book. And I think it's a nice first hardcover book for the Fretboard Journal that has a wider appeal than you'd think. And I also think I'm super excited about future hardcover books that we'll be doing. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we can't say too much.
No.
We got to keep the people interested.
Mm-hmm. We've had a very busy year of podcasting, and we had our most successful Fretboard Summit to date in Chicago. Do you want to reflect on either of those things?
Yeah. We can go in order. Podcasting has been great.
Yeah.
This was the year that you brought me in to be more of a guest host, which I'm incredibly honored.
I know.
And thank you to everybody who put up with me this year.
Oh, I've been loving I'm probably like most of the readers and listeners of the Fretboard Journal. I'm on the older end. And so you've turned me on to so many great musicians where I listen to their story and then I end up, following them and listening to their music and following their guitar store. In the case of your most recent interview, it's been super fun.
Yeah, you've deemed me the New York correspondent, which is fun. But interestingly enough, I think my favorite podcast episode this year was not any of those things, and it was not the New York correspondent beat because it was Dan Reeder. who is the most, like, such an iconic singer-songwriter and also visual artist, and also builds all his guitars and microphones, and was working on building a synth when I talked to him. And he called me from his shop, like his studio shop in Germany. And that was such a fun conversation because he's such a legend, and he was so willing to share insight on things he's built and the way he writes songs. And that was also great because I had had a couple people on the podcast this year, people who you're referring to, young musicians that I know in New York, like Rennie Conti and Isaac Stalling, who are very inspired by Dan Reeder and his work. So it was fun to hear that interview kind of side by side with some of the younger songwriters.
Yeah, I love that.
What did you have fun with in terms of podcasting this year?
Oh my gosh. Well, I can never remember where the lineage or where the demarcation zone is of like which ones happened in early 2025 versus 2024.
Yeah.
But on the more recent front, really loved being, I think, the first person to do a long interview with Emma Harmer. Mm-hmm. Emma Harner. I'll fix that in post. Emma's just blowing up on social media and awesome. And I reached out to her, and she actually ended up coming and teaching a quick thing at the Fretboard Summit, which was awesome. And then
I was going to say that's a good segue also to the summit, because she was really great. She taught on alternate tunings.
Yeah. Well, the other podcast that also has a summit connection was the one that I did on stage, which is always hard for me, with Dylan Day, who has a brand new album out that everybody should go check out, and Harrison Whitford and Ryan Richter. And I can remember the days leading up to this interview, you checking in with me going like, you got this, you got this, you know what you're going to ask. And I'm sure it's infuriating that sometimes I'm incredibly laid back and maybe a little nonchalant, but I just not by my own interview savvy, but just the sheer nature of how interesting those three guys are, and how much they like the magazine and how open they were. Like, I found that interview to be super fun and super insightful, and it was great to hear. Sometimes group interviews are awful because nobody really gets to say anything interesting. It's just, you know, a 60-minute interview cut up three ways, but they were riffing on each other. They brought out stuff from each other that probably wouldn't have happened if it was just one of us interviewing one of them. And it just tied in so well because Harrison's having an incredible year and on all sorts of insanely popular songs. Ryan is on the road with Mumford and Sons right now, or about to, maybe he's already back home from Europe, but he's having the wildest year imaginable. He was in Dijon's band, and Dijon's blowing up as well. And then Dylan, like, just put out that beautiful record that just came out. So it's just kind of cool timing to be interviewing three people who are probably they're certainly under the radar of most, you know, guitar people, but they have a very pivotal, important role in like where music is headed right now.
Yeah, totally. And their performance the last day of the summit was also a big highlight for me.
Totally.
Similarly, them just all kind of riffing off of each other in different ways. It felt kind of alive and impromptu and in a special way.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. And then what else have I done? Like, you know, I just interviewed Guru Singh again. We had to do it via Zoom because he was too busy to come in. But we're going to do, you know, that's like my annual holiday tradition, I guess. We did a bunch of Truth About Vintage Amps podcasts. Go check that out. I feel like that's kind of a universe unto itself. So folks, go check that out if you can. And then I think we did 5 or 6 Steel episodes, the podcast that Matt Perpick does for us on the world of steel guitar. And if you have not checked those out, everybody, please go check out the Steel podcast. It's produced better than any of the Fretboard Journal podcasts. Matt is an incredible interviewer. These are sort of like fun little gems that sort of drop whenever he gets around to it. But I get sucked into the world of steel guitar, and I am not really a steel guitar player. And so it's a testament to just how interesting and how rich these interviews are. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go check those out. Summit. We have another Fretboard Summit happening. Everybody should have their calendars marked August 20th to 22nd, 2026. This has just become my favorite weekend of the year. I can say that.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. And you can register for it now. I can say that most of the exhibitors who were there in 2025 are coming back in an even bigger capacity. We are not spilling the beans on any programming until early 2026, but at this point, I think it speaks for itself. You can go through what we've done in the first 5 years and see the kind of programming that you get and the kind of concerts that you get. And it's so amazing to see so many of our favorite people, and I'm including our readers and podcast listeners in that, under one roof and get to hang out with them, and friendships are formed, and it is very communal and interactive, and unlike any vintage or luthier guitar show you've ever been to, in that there's just a lot of fun connections. And we had a Pinewood Derby this year. That's got to come back, because that was like a resounding hit, asking all these famed guitar makers to make a Pinewood Derby car and then borrowing a track from the local Boy Scout troop. Who knew?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you get overwhelmed or sad by something like NAMM, come to the Fretboard Summit. It's a completely different vibe, and it's just way more personable, and people are willing to talk, and it's smaller, which is nice too.
It is so, yeah. And I am subject to change on this, but as of right now, we're talking in mid-December 2025. I think I am not going to bother with NAMM this year, because the summit is such a better place for me to connect with our favorite brands and people. And NAMM always just feels like this emotion and time suck for me. And I've done it like 25 times. And so this will be the first time I haven't gone in 2 decades. But I'd rather use that precious time and limited resource to go interview somebody for the magazine, go do something cool. So that's what I'm going to be doing, at least
Very
as
cool.
of now. Yeah. How many NAMMs have you been to?
0.
You just you've heard the horror stories
Now
living
you're
in LA?
discrediting my point of trying to get people to come to the summit. They're not going to trust me now.
Well, I've gone to enough NAMMs for both of us, and so maybe they'll trust me.
Yeah, you've gone to almost as many NAMMs as I've been alive.
Yeah, that's true. I just hired a running coach, and we had our first Zoom call last week, and he's asked me when I moved to Seattle, and we realized that I moved to Seattle before he was born. So,
whoa.
Yeah, it happens.
Nice.
People get old.
You're not old.
I'm old. Yeah. So everybody, please come to the summit. If anyone has any questions about the Fretboard Summit, or logistics questions about lodging or when to get in and when to leave, please fire a question to either of us. You can email us at podcast@fretboardjournal.com. Rhett Scholl just did a really cool video on the summit that everybody should go check out. He did a much better job showing the magic of it than I certainly could with a video camera. So yeah, that's the other fun part of the summit. It's been fun to let and welcome content creators who are doing their own thing into the summit and see what they do with it. And so there's just this like incredible array of YouTube videos and some podcasts that have come out of the summit that that's what it's all about, connecting people.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's your music career?
Oh, what a question. I talked about this a lot when I was first interviewed on the podcast, which is I'm kind of in this the last couple of years have been kind of this renaissance of trying to make it work for me because I'm not a very content creatory person. So I'm kind of on that. I'm settled into that wavelength. So to answer your question, I mean, people who, if you've heard my episode the first time, I put out a record last year in 2024. I made a record this year that is fully done and mastered. And I made it with Harrison Whitford, who we already mentioned in this very episode, who's one of my best friends in the whole world. And we always knew that we got along creatively. He's played shows with me before, but and he's played guitar on my records before, but this was our first really true like co-producing collaboration. And it was instant and lovely and exactly what I needed. So yeah, I made a record this year after I graduated graduate school. It was really it was quite pent up because I had been in the master's program and hadn't been recording. I'd been playing a lot of shows, but I hadn't worked on recorded music in a long time. And so it kind of just happened in a few days. It's mostly live, with some fun additions I won't give away.
Are there more literary references in your songs because that's where your head was at?
It's so funny you say that. I was actually just talking to Harry about this the other day, which is kind of this opposite effect happened where because I have the literary space in graduate school and now my work post-grad to write prose, my songs I've noticed have gone more towards the like plain spoken literal thing. I mean, there's still poetics in them, but I feel like I'm kind of separating the spaces a bit. But no, I'm trying to think. No reference to Yeats's Second Coming on this new record. But I will say, I'm not going to say much more, but yeah, the title of the record does come from a 20th century philosophical concept that kind of uprooted a lot of first wave philosophy. So there, you wouldn't know that, but there are some pretty academic-y things going on.
Did you watch the Andrea Gibson documentary?
No.
No? Do you know about it? The poet, the late poet.
Yeah, but what was the doc?
Come See Me in the Good Light. It's on all the streaming platforms now, as they say. Okay. Beautiful, heartbreaking, of course. Andrea Gibson's no longer with us, but it's sort of like documented the last year of her life with her partner. And her partner is also a poet, and it's just super. I mean, the whole movie is just this like beautiful love story, but there is some fun jabbing between the two of them because Andrea Gibson's like huge and one of the most famous poets America's turned out, and she says that she uses like 10 words total. And then her partner has this giant vocabulary and tries to cram so much into her poetry. And so, yeah, it's really sweet. Oh,
that's really interesting.
Yeah. And circling back to your record, for all the moms and dads my age listening to this, Harrison Whitford, who we keep talking about, is on the hit song Sally When the Wine Runs Out that all your kids are probably listening to.
Yeah, he was one of the main writers.
Yeah. Too. And so when you're listening to what is, a pretty nerdy guitar podcast, let's say that, and you're hearing about people like Harrison Whitford, you'll get some street cred if you name drop to your kids some of the songs these people have worked on.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I felt like I should add that. Broaden our audience.
Yeah. I mean, we're not just covering like esoteric old people.
No. Yeah. When I say that people, these musicians like Ryan and Harry and Dylan have a big influence on popular music, they truly do. So
for sure.
Well, when is this record going to come out? When can we hear it? You don't know.
I don't know. I'm figuring out what a release plan will look like, but sometime next year for sure. I really don't want to sit on it too long. but I would love in some way to give it a proper send off into the world.
You mentioned it has a literary-ish title. You were a little cryptic. Does it also have an equally unique cover as you dressing up like a clown on the last one?
It is an equally unique cover, but it is a totally different thing. Last time I commissioned that portrait, my friend Ren made it. I've talked on the podcast about how a lot of that record felt very aligned with this Edward Hopper painting. So equally special, but a totally different route. I knew I did not want my face on this record just because I don't like myself enough to aesthetically have like every album in my catalog have my face on it. But I have a deep love and appreciation for this incredible photographer named Michael Northrup, who Harry actually introduced me to. And Michael, crazily enough, is letting me use a photograph of his from the early 80s that is quite famous. And I'm not going to say much more. But
Okay.
there's a Michael Northrup photo on the cover, which I feel very honored. He is just letting me use it. He's just a music fan. It was amazing. I reached out to him and thinking, he would say, give me $100,000 or something. And
Sure.
he just said, I'm older now and I love to play music. And we discovered we play the same exact Hagstrom bass.
Oh.
And he said, do whatever you want. You have my blessing. And so we talked about a few photos that we felt kind of thematically went with what was going on. And the photo that ultimately made it onto the cover is interesting because it's kind of the furthest from applying to the content of the record, but it's just the photo I kept coming back to. And it was really Harry who said, there's no choice here. You know which one it is. So I'm excited for people to see that. And everyone should check out Michael Northrup's photography. He's amazing. He did a lot of really interesting stuff with flash in the 80s and 90s. And I particularly love if you're on his archives, all his work labeled early color is my favorite. But also he's still working. He's in his 70s, I think, and he's still coming up with really new, crazy, inventive things to do. So it's very inspiring.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Have you been able to hang out with him? Have you met him face to face yet?
No, I haven't, but
I'm assuming he's in one of the two cities you frequent.
I actually don't know where
You
he
don't
lives.
know.
That's embarrassing.
It's okay. Probably New York or LA, but maybe not. People are allowed to live wherever they want.
I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
I'm talking about him with such a confidence. I don't even know where he lives.
That's okay. What else have you been diving into? What's on your playlist right now? Or
Yeah, because the last time we did this kind of roundup, I feel like I mostly yapped about my albums and shows of the year, but we're deep in now, so I'm gonna lighten it up a bit.
Okay.
But something I mentioned last time around for the yearly roundup is I feel very lucky that like a few of my albums of the year also were my shows of the year, that I got to see these records I love live. So I'd say my absolute number.
What's going on here? Start over, please.
Okay.
Your number one.
So my absolute number one of the year, no question, is the Dijon record, Baby. We already brought him up because, Richter has done some touring with him. He put this record out pretty much out of the blue in August, I believe it was. He posted a little thing on his website that very cryptically made it seem like maybe there was new music coming, and basically an entire record dropped. And it's an expansion, I think, of the sound in Absolutely, which is his record from a few years ago. But it is so layered and so interesting and so alive. and the songs themselves are so good. And then I felt very, very lucky that a friend of mine, Mike Haldeman, who actually will have a little story coming out in the next issue of the magazine. The incredible Mike Haldeman is playing with Dijon right now, and so I got to go see two of the three shows, the three New York shows, and that was the greatest experience because for anybody listening to this who has seen the show, knows from experiencing it that the show is very alive. It's very in the moment. There's a lot of arranging and rearranging of songs we know and love. And so the fact that I saw it twice, 2 nights in a row, really proved that the magic that is happening on stage is very of the moment. Even as much to the level of Andrew Sarlo, who engineers and mixes and has some production credits on these records. He has an entire mixing board on stage, and he is live mixing everybody. And he is extremely active in the process, in the setup. I mean, if you can catch them, I think that the U.S. leg of the tour is basically done, but there's some Europe, and I'm assuming there's going to be some more next year. I know they're doing Coachella. This is a not to miss show. This was my show of the year and maybe my show of the past several years.
Wow.
And I cannot, I can't overhype this. It's really quite special, and everybody. It's such a loud show in an interesting way, and everybody has so much control over what's happening, especially in tandem with the Andrew on stage mixing thing.
Yeah.
And Dijon himself, I mean, that's the most important thing here. Dijon himself is the most captivating performer. He is giving, like, he had the flu at these shows, and he was still giving 170%, like, in every moment. And he picks up the guitar a lot more in this version of the set than when I saw the tour a few years ago. And he's an incredible player. He's like the best feel ever. So yeah, that was my show of the year. I won't go into too much depth otherwise, but I just wrote a bit about the Blake and Pino record for one of my favorite Instagrams, Fish on Film, as in Fish the band, asked me about an album of the year, and I wrote about that record and seeing it live at Pioneer Works in Brooklyn. I also spent a lot of time this year with the Foxhorn record, which is Andy Schaaf's band. This is their second record. Their first record came out, I think, maybe 6 or so years ago, 7 years ago. So this was a long-awaited second record. And we mentioned the interview in the magazine that came out this year. But if you're interested, Andy talks a lot in that interview about the pretty obscure way they made this record, which was from a lot of different sounds and textures. And he ran everything that was going on through a sampler. So again, keeping in my theme of loving albums that I also got to see live, it was fun to see that translated in a live setting, just knowing that the live setting was so different from the very technical, strange way that they actually made the record. But that was one of my favorite interview moments of this year, because something I had never really thought about before is that Andy was saying, I mean, he has so many records and he's made so much music over the years that playing with the sampler really unlocked for him this mode of writing that he couldn't manufacture on his own if he sat down with the guitar at the piano. Because by manipulating little sound bites in the sampler, whether he fed it, a short chord progression or something, he was inevitably able to make up progressions and rhythms and things that he was not naturally going to on his own. So yeah, that was a really fun interview to do, and that record is fantastic. What else? Oh my God, I saw Dave Rawlings and Gillian Welch at Carnegie Hall, which is
That's pretty cool.
such a crazy thing to think about. And it was somehow the strangest and also most perfect venue for them. And they kept remarking on how they felt like, hilariously out of place. But that was, I mean, everybody around me was shedding tears at some point. And it was really sweet because I think last year I talked about seeing them and that I looked around and there were a lot of young kids with their parents, which gave me hope.
Totally.
I mean, my parents were taking me to see Dave and Gil when I was that age. So, yeah. And then the last thing I'll mention, oh God, I want to talk about so many shows this year. I calculated that I went to like 80 shows, which is bananas.
Yeah.
But so it was really hard to pare it down. But the last thing I'll focus on, and I'll put a pin, like I saw Big Thief at Forest Hills. That was one of the best shows of my life too. But something I'd really love to talk about, and as you can tell, because I'm getting really excited, is that Rilo Kiley reunited this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge deal for me because Rilo Kiley was one of my all-time favorite bands in middle school and high school. I was completely obsessed. I was really inspired to write songs, being a Jenny Lewis fan. And although over the years I have gotten to see Jenny play a number of times, I missed the Rilo Kiley wave because by the time I was obsessed with them in middle and high school, they had stopped touring and they had broken up. And so I was just resigned to the fact that this music that was so formative to me, that I was so deeply in love with and inspired by, I was never going to get to see live. Especially because if people can remember, it was kind of a tumultuous band breakup too. So you must imagine my utter shock when earlier this year I was on the phone with Harry, who we've mentioned a bunch of times already on this episode, and Harry said, Rilo Kiley is reuniting and I am going to be the auxiliary member. So yeah, I was the dates were approaching and I was getting more and more excited. And we took a trip up to Port Chester to see the first of the 3 New York shows at the Capitol Theater, which fans of the podcast probably know as a very important venue for the Grateful Dead. And it was a truly transcendent experience because the child version of me could not believe that I was getting to hear these songs live. And they stayed very true to the arrangements on the record, which usually I don't like. Usually I want a show like the Dijon show to feel very alive, to feel like, okay, there's a reason I'm seeing this live instead of like listening to it in my headphones.
Sure.
But these arrangements at the Rilo Kiley show were perfect because it was such a nostalgia trip for everyone. And so hearing the songs how they are on the record was exactly how it should be. And it was. And so I had the greatest night of my life.
Wow.
And the child in me was on fire. And then Harry was generous enough to say, well, yeah, this seems to mean a lot to you. So would you like to, attend 2 more? And so I did in fact see Rilo Kiley 3 times, which is crazy. But also I love to reread my favorite books. So perhaps in character.
Did the shows vary much based off what you just said?
Yeah, they did. They played, I would say I heard a few different songs every night, which was good because I didn't get my favorite song until the last of the 3. So it was good that I waited. Okay. But yeah, I mean, variation or not, there was something new to discover every time I saw it. I mean, everyone in that band is such a fucking legend. Like Jason Bozell is one of the greatest indie rock drummers of all time. He's just totally legendary. Yeah, so I could talk about a million more gigs, but I'd say I covered my greatest.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm trying to think of.
I don't go out as much as you do. So my concert roundup, and maybe I'll lump it together with some of my favorite albums, is much more limited. But Fretboard Summit delivered, made me cry. The entire lineup, from the show we were just talking about with Ryan Richter and Harrison and Dylan, to Lyle Lovett to Charlie Hunter, like, it was incredible. Dave Hill blew the doors off the place. It was great. I was lucky enough to see my acoustic guitar hero Leo Kottke play this last summer, and not only hear him play, which I've heard many times, but I was able to finagle my way backstage and say how much his music meant to me. And that was super, super special. And he even played for me my all-time favorite Leo Kottke song, The Fisherman. So the Fretboard Journal is good for something. I got to meet my guitar hero and hear the tune that probably set me down the whole acoustic guitar nerd path.
The Fretboard Journal is good for a lot of things.
This is true, lest I forget. But on that day, I was very happy that I decided to, put out the Fretboard Journal, because I was talking to Leo, and I just want to add, if anyone out there, this is something that will undoubtedly be on the podcast next year, as well as probably in the magazine. John Stropes has just put out, I just got it, like this 2-book anthology of Leo Kottke's 6 and 12 string guitar, with full tab, the stories behind every song, thoughts on playing technique. Just an astounding project that I know you can buy from John Stropes' website right now. I got to see dear friend of the show and the magazine, Nico Case, play in Seattle, one of her hometowns that she's played a show at. And that was super special. That was a month or so ago, and it just felt like a homecoming with a bunch of us who've been in the Seattle music world forever. And if anybody hasn't checked out her memoir that she wrote that came out earlier this year, there is a chapter on the piece she wrote for the Fretboard Journal. And
amazing.
She interviewed Charlie Leuven for our very first issue, and wrote about what actually took place. And it was the whole book is highly recommended if anybody needs a memoir to read. And so that was super fun, and great to see her. I'm going to try to drag her to one of our summits, if not 2026, sometime soon. And then what else? I've been listening to, I just listen to random stuff, and I do have a little bit of a running habit. So I have been listening to PD USA a lot, who has a record.
Is this what you run to?
You wouldn't want to know what I run to. It would be so jarring. But
I feel like we need to know. Actually,
I'll share my running playlist if anybody wants to see it.
Are we talking like Beyonce?
I mean, yeah, there's some Kendrick Lamar in there. There's a full array of upbeat tunes. But PD USA has a record out called The Yips, and I totally love it. And my friend Chris Walla, who used to be in Death Cab for Cutie, produced this record. Chris now lives in Norway, I think in Trondheim, Norway. So I don't even know whether this was recorded in Norway or in the States. Doesn't matter. But I listened to an interview with PD USA on the Rainn Wilson podcast, which I think is called Soul Boom. That it came out like 2 weeks ago, and it made me love him even more. He's like a fascinating guy. His whole music career is all since COVID. And he's had all sorts of self-doubt and struggles, and sort of just, I'm not even on TikTok, so I can't even comment on his TikTok videos, which apparently are a thing of legend.
Whoa, but this is news to me.
Yeah. So he went by PD for his first record, but I guess PD USA was his TikTok handle, so he decided to just rename his band so that people looking for him could find one thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a London Suede thing. There was some legality or anything. But anyways, the interview with Rainn Wilson was super cool. It made me want to interview him. So I don't know if anybody wants some poppy indie rock in their life, I can recommend that. And thanks probably largely to all the work you've done with Adrian and everyone in her orbit. Big Thief, like new record, was a big part. Not so much for me when I'm running, but that was all things Big Thief this year for me. So.
Yeah, that universe is just the gift that keeps on giving. It's really fascinating. I'm obsessed with everything that's going on in there. Just because like Big Thief produces so much music, and then Buck Meek's albums are amazing, and Adrian's albums are amazing, and James the drummer has amazing instrumental music. You know, it's amazing and then also, you know, I mentioned this Forest Hills show, and what was really special about it, it was the one show they played on their whole tour where, because it was in New York, they had everybody that played on the record, because they made that record in Manhattan. And that whole extended universe is also made up of the most amazing artists. I mean, they got Hannah Cohen on background vocals, and that was another incredible album this year, which I'm sure people listening have heard. Earth Star Mountain. Hannah works with her partner Sam Evian, in their beautiful studio in upstate New York. So yeah, I mean, Big Thief, extended universe. You got crazy other music, and they had Laraji on stage, who's featured on the record. So yeah, that whole universe is really inspiring, because it feels so separate from the whole like TikTokification of music.
Yeah.
Those people are just living, breathing music, and not the, you know, insane industry content creator, you know, thing that has now become the music industry. So
totally,
I'm all for it.
I love it. Besides your record coming out in 2026, any fun stuff on the horizon you want to talk about?
Ooh,
in your world or outside?
Yeah, well, yeah, some of it's a little too early for me to say.
Okay.
I would jinx it. I'm scared I would jinx it. But yeah, definitely would love that record of mine to come out. It will at some time next year, however it comes out. And also too early to say exactly, but would really love to play some shows around the country in honor of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of this year when I wasn't in grad school playing bass for other artists, which I really love doing. And so I have some stuff coming up next year. I just recently began playing with this amazing Canadian singer-songwriter who we should 100% have on the podcast, because he's a fascinating character, named Ken Yates, who I had not known before I got this gig, but would discover through these gigs we did together that he has a very dedicated fan base. I mean, very, like, knows every word, which I feel like you don't see as much these days with the kind of small to mid-size singer-songwriters. So yeah, playing some more stuff with him, and more bass gigs, and really just figuring my shit out now that I don't have the construct of grad school.
Yeah.
But I have the construct of the Fretboard Journal.
Aw, you do, thankfully.
Which is good. It gives me some structure.
Yeah, there's something there's something in the water up there in Canada. I listen to an inordinate amount of Canadian music.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
That Cindy Lee record that is like, I know that's a year too old, but
it's so good. It's relevant though, because she was touring this year.
Yeah, I was already hooked on Daniel Romano, and Daniel Romano's been here and on the podcast, and the Cindy Lee record is insane and cool. And yeah, I don't know. We you know, it's funny. Mandolin player John Reichman was here a week ago and reminded me that he was on the first Nico Case record. And
it's all connected.
And they've never actually met when he was recording it. He just did the mandolin track and she wasn't even in the room. But
whoa.
Yeah, they've since connected. But yeah, there's just something up there. I hope to spend a lot of time in 2026 with our neighbors to the north. So maybe it'll rub off on me and I'll become a better musician.
I think it's more that they're just so nice that they're going to make us all nicer and a bit more optimistic.
They are pretty nice. Our friend Blake Mills has a workshop coming up in January.
Yeah.
Are you enrolled in that?
I think I will. I think I will be. I think I will be crashing.
Okay.
I will be completely transparent that this role you have given me at the magazine gets me some cool shit.
Oh, cool. This is like a fantasy rock and roll camp. So for $200, Blake Mills, acclaimed guitarist, producer, human being, is teaching a workshop through schoolofsong.org.
Let me explain how this works.
Yeah,
so
please.
I mentioned it in my Adrienne piece because part of my Adrienne article is that exactly 2 years ago, in January, Adrienne taught this. So School of Song is an incredible organization that developed in COVID, but has only grown since, which I feel like is kind of rare. Like, it's a remote platform, but it actually has only gotten bigger since the pandemic. It wasn't just like its own thing in COVID. And basically it's an online music school. It was started by some guys I know in LA. One being Stephen Van Betten, who is an incredible singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist. And so the School of Song, most of the year, has core classes. So you can you can sign up for music theory for songwriters. I took an amazing class years ago on the caged system. So there's vocal related classes, guitar, performance. There's a really amazing and popular mixing lab class that's taught by Philip Weinrobe, who's mixed a lot of the records that we've talked about today. But then a couple times a year, they will do these 1 month long, they'll bring in an artist to teach songwriting, right? And in the past, you might think you know what that means, but it has actually meant a lot of things for the School of Song over the years because, yes, people like Adrian Lenker have taught it, which might be kind of more what you think, like, oh, a folk singer-songwriter lecture, but like Brian Eno has taught it too. So, and Laraji has taught it. They've had so many insane guests over the years. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can access their archive online. You could see kind of who they've had over the years. And I think you can buy archived sessions. But yeah, so basically how it works is Blake is teaching the January class. It is 4 lectures in a row once a week. They're amazing. The school does a really good job of working with the lecturer to really develop like a focus for the class. And yeah, a lot is offered. There are additional Q&A sessions that are separate of the lecture themselves, which is great because it's not like, the lecture is just going to be totally subsumed by stupid questions. Mm-hmm. And there's the School of Song also does a lot of really interesting organizing people into like song share Zooms. And if you live actually, I shouldn't even say if you live in specific cities because they actually figured out how to do meetups like in every possible city. There are enough people that take School of Song classes that the end of the session, they organize these in-person meetups. And I remember the map from the Adrian one had like hundreds of cities. So the likelihood that there's going to be an in-person song share of some kind in your city is very high. But yeah, it's honestly a lot of bang for your buck because it's not just the 4 separate lectures, but there are these Q&A sessions and then there are these song share sessions. So it's kind of like what you make of it. But also they record them. So if you can't attend like right when the lecture is happening live on Zoom, you can watch after the fact.
And it's $200 for, at the very least, you get, if you do nothing else, there's 4, kind of masterclass lectures from Blake for that. How many people do these? Like, how many people are on the Zoom call?
Yeah. So the lectures themselves are lecture style, so you can't see how many are in it. I think it probably varies guest to guest, but I mean, they're able to accommodate thousands of people because it's on Zoom, and they've really worked out the system where when they then put you into groups for some writing and sharing and all that, they know how to put even that mass of people into very small groups to share.
Yeah.
So it's a whole ecosystem they've created, and I mean, some of the guests have been so special. So it's worth signing up for the Blake one and also kind of delving into the archive for sure.
I'm going to be attending because I love, and as we think about the Fretboard Summit and some of these other kind of events that I keep thinking about doing, like I love that he's talking about more than just here's how to play hi-ho or something.
Oh, it will not be like that.
Yeah.
I can trust you. The School of Song does a good job of like, it's going to be about applying lessons to your own songs and about Blake's craft and how he conceptualizes writing. And it's definitely not like a tutorial. It's very much how to write on your own too.
I love it. Well, Sofia, what did we miss? We covered a lot of ground. I think we gave people, I will have in the show notes dozens of links to things that we referenced for folks who want to learn more about this class we just talked about or records we mentioned. But did we cover everything?
I think we did. Okay. Thank you for such a wonderful year.
Oh, I mean, thank our listeners and readers. They support us.
It's very true.
This isn't just
it's funny. It's like honestly become a bit of a bit, which is, I feel like I'm getting more recognized for the podcast than my own music.
Uh-oh.
I love it. I'm like, all right, cool. You love gear. I do too.
Wow. Well, yeah. And we've sent you on some adventures to various guitar stores on the East Coast. So that will happen as well in 2026, some profiles.
Hell yeah. Yes, okay. I love my Fretboard Journal adventures.
Well, thank you as always for all that you bring to the table and your inspiration and your energy. And you've now given me a whole laundry list of things I need to go check out. And can't thank you enough, Sofia.
And thank you for keeping this whole organization running.
Trying.
Everyone is very grateful. I know.
I passed the baton to you not once, but twice in 2025 when I checked out for... went completely off the grid on 2 separate trips.
And
we're
you know
still
what?
Here.
I learned that I do not want to be the editor-in-chief of a magazine.
These are invaluable lessons.
Yes, You taught me a very good lesson.
Okay, good. All right. Happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to everyone tuning in. And thanks so much.
Yeah. Happy holidays, everybody.